Hey soldiers, a major bankruptcy has just occurred in corporate America and it will affect you. We're going to get into that. You probably are already aware of the fact that Yellow Trucking just went out of business and subsequently filed bankruptcy. Well, this has ramifications for the entire economy and may also contribute to inflation. In fact, it probably will. So we're going to tell you how that all is going to occur, how it's going to affect you. But first, we're going to get into why the company ended up going out of business. And we're going to talk about how that's going to affect the employees. And then finally, we'll get around to how it's going to affect you. And it will. So let's get started right off the bat here. Yellow Trucking was actually the third largest less than truckload carrier in the United States of America. So they were, out there doing pretty well for themselves in terms of the amount of business that they had. 30,000 employees. So, not a small company by any stretch of the imagination. They have declared bankruptcy, $700 million bankruptcy. And part of that was owed to you, the American citizen. That's another part of how you'll be affected that I really wasn't focused on, but we'll get into it. Trucking giant Yellow declares bankruptcy after getting $700 million in government loans. Trucking company Yellow Corporation has declared bankruptcy after years of financial struggles and growing debt, marking a significant shift for the U.S. transportation industry and shippers nationwide. The Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which was filed Sunday, comes just 3 years after Yellow received $700 million in pandemic-era loans from the federal government. Now, it is well known that the company, unfortunately, was a subject of bad management. And part of that poor management was that they failed to refinance a lot of their loans, and they were caught in a rising interest rate environment. So those interest payments ballooned. That's just one nail in their coffin. And this is why it's so important to take a look at the management of a company before you invest in it. While a Chapter 11 filing is used to restructure debt while operations continue, Yellow, like other trucking companies in recent years, will liquidate, and the U.S. will join other creditors unlikely to recover funds extended to the company. So they're going to be liquidating. Guys, I have shared with you on the channel that my family used to own a trucking company, and it was nowhere near approaching the size or scope of Yellow. We had, at our largest, we had 4 tractors, I believe. It's been so long. And we had several trailers, including 2 reefer trailers. They didn't carry marijuana. Reefer is industry parlance for refrigerated trailers. They were 48-foot trailers. And trucking is not an easy business, okay? I inherited that business from a family member, so I tried to keep it going. But we had to liquidate, all right? My wife is a phenomenal businesswoman. She's an MBA, one of the MBAs that actually makes it work. And she sold off the tractors. She did a deal on the trailers and sold the routes as well. So we had to liquidate. We had to get out of the business because it's maintenance intensive. Every time we bought one of those tractor trailers back, we had to do maintenance on it because there was no way in hell we were going to have 80,000 pounds fully loaded of freight out there on the highways and byways of America and not have A, qualified drivers, which are expensive, and B, equipment that was well maintained. All right, so we did those things. And then what caught us was gas prices and freight rates. Freight rates coming down. Gas prices were going up. So we had to get out of that business. So I just want to let you guys know that as Yellow liquidates, there might be some folk out there who are thinking about picking up some of these trucks and making a go of it. And I would just encourage you to do your due diligence in the industry before you pull the trigger. But my experience is just one man's journey. Okay, you could get into it and be, phenomenal at it. Who knows? But just do your due diligence. Yellow fell into severe financial stress after a long stretch of poor management and strategic decisions dating back decades. In 2019, two trucking companies, Celadon and New England Motor Freight, filed for bankruptcy protection and liquidated. Okay, so all of these trucking companies, a lot of the mid-tier, less than truckload companies are having trouble, and we're going to get into what that means for you, because it does have inflationary, it holds the specter of inflation as we see this occurring. All right, let's talk briefly about the employees. Like I said before, there were 30,000 Yellow employees. They don't have jobs anymore, okay, which is unfortunate. There also was the question of their pensions. And a lot of people were wondering whether or not these pensions would be somehow included in the bankruptcy. Well, the fact of the matter is they will get their pensions. Yellow Teamster member pensions are safe. They are part of a large multi-employer Teamster pension fund called Central States Pension Fund. The company, Yellow, did not make their June or July payment into that fund, but all previous pension accruals for the Yellow employees will be received by members at retirement. So thank God for that, because you got some folk there that have put in a lot of time, and it would just be unfathomable for them to be in a situation where they have lost all that time they put into that pension. So they are going to get that. All right. So how's this going to affect the United States of America, you and I? Well, for starters, there's one less trucking company out there. And we talked about the liquidation in 2019 of the other two, Celadon and New England Motor Freight. So we're going into the holiday season, right? We're going to see a lot of things being shipped. And look, even if we weren't going into that season, the fact of the matter is everything you have in your home took a trip on a truck at some point. Unless you got a train depot in your backyard, everything in your home, from your food, your clothes, the floorboards, all right, the roof shingles, the television, everything there was transported on a truck at some point. So with fewer trucking capacity out there, but let's just say the same amount of freight, then you're going to run into the old supply and demand paradigm, okay? You've got the same amount of demand, less supply. So you're going to see companies like, FedEx, they're going to pick up the slack, but they're going to need to probably raise their prices in order to do that. So that's one way that we may see higher inflation, because if shippers are going to be charged more, then they're going to have to pass that on at some point. There just aren't as many trucking companies out there to do the work. Yellow, formerly known as YRC Worldwide Inc., was one of the nation's largest less than truckload carriers. So again, they weren't fly by night. They weren't my old company. Now we were doing, God's work out there, but we were very, very small. You're going to see companies like ABF. They're going to come in, like I said, FedEx. But here's the thing. It is well known that Yellow had among the cheapest rates in the industry. Might be one of the reasons why they're out of business today. All right. So we're going to see inflation in that sector. That's going to drive up the cost of everything that you buy that is shipped on a truck. All right. So this is unfortunately an inevitability of, this particular bankruptcy. So it is what it is, guys. What I would suggest that you do is continue to look at your purchases and make wise decisions about your consumption. Do you need it? Okay, now I'm not saying that you have to live an austere life like a monk in the 15th century, abbey somewhere. No, I'm not suggesting that. But I am suggesting that you break the chains of conspicuous consumerism. And you know what's not shipped on a truck? A share of stock in a quality company. Maybe you can look into, purchasing, more assets instead of actually bearing the full brunt of the inflation that will be caused by fewer, businesses in the trucking sector. Now, you could also take a look at some of these companies that are publicly traded that are in the shipping industry, because they will be getting more freight. Now, how they manage it, that's, a question that you'd have to answer for yourself by doing some due diligence. Now, we talked about businesses here today. Little palate cleanser. Look at this video right here. A small business went vigilante, took matters into its own hands when it was faced with someone who was coming in and taking inventory that they could have sold. All right. So watch that video, and I ask people in that video, let me know how you feel about that. I want to get your opinion. Guys, I'll talk to you soon.